welcome back, everybody. We're here for session 2 of the Smart Growth for Water Resources Table Talks. Last week, we visited with Lane Kreider with Beaver Water District about the different challenges and opportunities going on from the drinking water perspective for Northwest Arkansas and regional growth. Today, we're going to sit down with Nelson Peacock, CEO and President of the Northwest Arkansas Council. I'm Becky Roark, Executive Director for Beaver Watershed Alliance, and we also have Leif Kinberg co-hosting these sessions with me with the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. So we're glad you joined today, and we look forward to the conversation with Nelson. So Nelson, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You know, we're all really curious about our leadership's perspective on smart growth and regional growth and our water resources here in Northwest Arkansas. So really, how is the Northwest Arkansas Council involved in preparing our region for over 1 million people?
Yeah, well, you know, when you go back and you think about the Northwest Arkansas Council, it's a regional nonprofit that was founded by business leaders, Sam Walton, John Tyson, J.B. Hunt, Mark Simmons, and others. And their goal was to figure out how these smaller communities could work together to build a place where their businesses could grow and thrive. So we've been doing a lot of work with those companies and with leaders across the region around economic development, infrastructure development, entrepreneurship, healthcare, and a lot of different spaces. But the idea is, how can this place be as good as it possibly can be as in terms of talent attraction and retention? And we have been successful, as everyone knows. So we're projected to grow to 1 million people over the next 20 years. We're at roughly 600,000 now. And so that is putting strain on our region, our infrastructure. And we're starting to see some of the challenges of that growth going forward. So really what the council's role will be, and we hope will be, is to bring leaders together, experts like yourselves in water, experts in economic development, experts in highways, experts in alternative forms of transportation, and really bring those groups together, figure out the best possible solution for the region that we can, and try to go and work with the elected officials to implement some of those goals. We have no real authority to do anything, right, but we do have the ability to convene people, bring people together, bring some resources to bear on studies and analysis to help put us in the right path to make the best decisions possible.
Great. Okay.
Nelson, great to speak with you this morning. You mentioned some of the challenges, and my question I wanted to ask you is, what are the challenges you see in maintaining economic growth, quality of life, protection of water, streams, rivers, and lakes in our region?
Yeah. First of all, when you think about our growth and our economic development, our great economy, it goes hand in hand with quality of life. And so when you look at some of the surveys that we've done recently, green space, getting outdoors is one of the top things that people like about this region. And so we cannot attract and retain talent if we don't take care of that. The ability to get outdoors, the ability to have clean water, access our rivers, lakes, and streams, and do them in a way that is most environmentally friendly. So those things go hand in hand. So I think what we need to do is impress upon leaders across the region that we can't continue to have robust economic growth if we don't preserve the things that people love here in Northwest Arkansas, and that is the ability to get outside and to enjoy the outdoors.
How do you think both drinking water and wastewater fits into those challenges?
Well, I think from the perspective of the businesses and the general public, those are things that they expect to have happen. Solving for those challenges are some of the bedrock things that our governments need to do and the way that they prepare for the future. A lot of times, this is particularly true we're seeing in sewer wastewater, we have a lot of smaller solutions to address problems, but we need a larger regional solution so that we can make sure that we do this in the most efficient way possible, the most cost-effective way possible, and also one that looks out on the horizon over the next 20 years and builds a solution for what we're going to look like, because these projects take years and years to conceive and develop. So if we build for the next 5 years, we're going to be outdated probably before those projects get done. So how can we look forward to the future, make the investments that we have to make, and hopefully reduce the impact on the ratepayer or the taxpayer here?
Well, Nelson, you mentioned a survey. So in 2024, there was a survey and identified water quality as a top priority in Northwest Arkansas for residents. So how does that feedback shape the council's approach to like water-related initiatives?
Yeah, I think it was just a reminder of how important these issues are for people here that move here from other places or that are born and raised here. And so I think it's just a reminder to us that when we try to think through regional solutions, no matter what they are, that these are critically important issues to the people. That survey also found that people enjoy their outdoor activities and green space. Again, that those two things go hand in hand together. And so I think that really helps us as we think about how we're going to try to influence growth patterns. One of the things that I'm most concerned about when we look to the future is how do we reduce sprawl out into our rural areas. We did an analysis about a year ago that found that if we continue to develop at our same density pattern, so I think it was around 4 units per acre is our average. If we continue to develop like that over the next 20 years, we will take up roughly the equivalent of 1/2 of Benton County with single-family residences. So if that happens, you're looking at a completely different region, and you're thinking about all the infrastructure costs that will have, the impacts on rivers, lakes, and streams, and also the increased traffic. So when we think about growth, we have to think about how we can increase density in the right locations so that we can preserve our green space and all of our natural resources here. And so I think that's really important. And I think the other thing on the other side of that is how do we have access points where people can get out and enjoy these with the least damage to the environment that we possibly can. There's going to be more pressure on Beaver Lake, more pressure on the Illinois River. How can we let people have access in a way that makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And to the density, Lane said something really similar in his session about, having less density around the lake and keeping the more green space. But as you go more into the corridor, kind of having that more dense growth happening there. So
most of the cities are kind of redoing their zoning plans. I think cities need to be able to help determine how growth happens so that they can handle the infrastructure needs over time. If you grow the wrong way, if you have the wrong makeup of businesses versus residences, you will find yourself in a budget crunch really quickly. We have a few cities that are facing some of that now, and we want to help some of our smaller towns figure that out before this growth totally, encompasses them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nelson, would you mind expanding a little bit on some of the things that you see as upcoming opportunities potentially for the council or the region to work together to achieve goals that protect water as well as support robust economic development you spoke to and quality of life and attract talented people to the region?
Yeah, I think that in many ways we need to continue what we've been doing, but not lose sight of what people really like about this place, and that is lower cost of living, lower traffic. And I know maybe people don't feel that way, but it is lower than a lot of places where you go. Yeah. How do we maintain that? And can we do that and then build alternative forms of transportation? Can we preserve the character of our downtowns, which people really like, which allows us to have big city amenities in a lot of small town feel? So I think we need to really lean into that, but at the same time continue to make this a place where we attract entrepreneurs, we attract big business and others. And so I think it's maintaining that balance, that we don't lose sight of our outdoor recreation background that people love as we continue to grow, as new people continue to move in. Really need to keep a strong focus on that.
Well, that's really it, Nelson. We just have one lingering question for you, and that is, what is your favorite thing about Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, well, what I love about Northwest Arkansas is it's really a dynamic place. And kind of as I mentioned, you have all these big city amenities, but the way that we're structured, it's like a lot of small towns. And you get a small town feel with big city amenities. And so that is one great thing about it. The other thing I think is there's a lot of diversity in people that move here and come here to contribute. And that adds to the dynamism of Northwest Arkansas in a way that I think is helpful. And then also I think it's still small enough where people really think they can make a difference, and they can, so they jump in, make decisions to work together. And I think in my role, that is really gratifying when we ask for a meeting on name the issue. People show up, try to figure out how to work together. And I think if you've been in other cities, working in the governments in other cities, that is not always the case. And so hopefully we can keep that as we grow, because I think that's really the special sauce about is what's going to help us address some of these challenges going forward.
Absolutely agree. Well, Nelson, thank you so much for your time this morning, and we really look forward to sharing this out with everyone. Just as a reminder, we want to let everyone know that we are having a conference on smart growth and water resources coming up on April 2nd and 3rd of this year. And we look forward to having Nelson back as a panelist for that conference, and many speakers and people coming together to talk about this. And so thank you for joining today. And Nelson, thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for your leadership on these critical issues.